And then there's like a video I took on the night before the first protest, and it was like my dad screaming at me going like, don't fucking protest tonight. And like, we laugh about it now, like, because like the video, he's like screaming like, just keep a fucking low profile. And then like the next time I talked to him was like 12 o'clock the next day, when they were like fucking like, there were media, like Channel 7 trucks and stuff at UQ, and he just saw me on the news, and he was ringing me up. I was like, what the fuck? I'm like...
On today's episode, we've got Drew Pavlou.
Okay.
I thought I might introduce you.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Who was a
Drew, how are we?
Who was a human rights activist, social democrat, and is known for taking on UQ and the Chinese Communist Party. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Welcome, Drew.
What you were just telling us is against the big dog, which is sort of what you've been doing. You've been taking on, like you were doing it with UQ and the Chinese Communist Party.
Exactly. See, some people have been like to me, like, okay, I'll try to explain this, right? So I started off when it came to fighting the CCP and everything. And people just thought I was like this one issue guy, that I just hated the Chinese government, and I was just like this crazy racist who hated the Chinese order. That's what people were trying to project onto me. But that was never... I mean, I fell into it because I was increasingly radicalized by the fact the entire society is becoming rigged on the side of...
doing.
Well, not just China, it's also just here in the West. Like the entire society has become rigged to benefit the people with power already. And I saw the fact that powerful people in Australia, the University of Queensland, like these vice chancellors, the bureaucrats running the university on $1 million salaries, these guys were benefiting so close. Like they were taking in so much money financially by being close with this government. And I knew that there were like atrocities being carried out. There were 1 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps and stuff. So I saw that. And I was like, where is everyone? Why is no one talking about this? And I always sort of identified myself more as like left or progressive, but I didn't see any progressives wanting to talk about it because a lot of the time they thought like criticism of the Chinese government was, they would try and conflate that with attacks on the Chinese people.
Can I ask, Drew?
Yeah.
Because it's one thing to have this grand idea of trying to implement and doing something where you know for a fact that shouldn't be the way that society works, especially as you're saying that it looks like people in high power are reaping the rewards of all the things they're starting to implement into the world that we live in. But from having this idea to then starting this protest up, how did that come about? And, And do you mind explaining to the listeners? Because it's easy for me to say the protest. What was the protest?
Yeah, of course. That's what I was trying to. That's what I'll try to get into. So, basically, the common thing that links everything that I try and do is like being on the side of sort of the underdog against the powerful people. And I saw people in power in Australia, they were ignoring a genocide because of the financial ties with China. People, and so I organized one protest, and then that one exploded and blew out of control. And then that like defined like 2 years of my life. And so people tried to go, oh, Drew's just a single issue guy. But in fact, the common thread the entire time has always just been on the side of ordinary people, the underdog against the battlers. Being on the side of the underdog against, those with power.
Big institutions.
And I didn't really think about it in terms of like, I didn't have a plan when I did that first protest because I was being a bit like the Joker. I sort of just sowing chaos. Like the way I sort of just came to it was, so in high school, in grade 12 legal studies, I read about like Rwandan genocide, and that like really impacted me so much because I was like, oh my God, like people of my mum and dad's generation, they like lived through that. They knew that a terrible atrocity was...
But nothing came about.
Well, no one did anything to try and stop this. And so I always like... that shocked me so much. And then that like lit a fire in me. Like I remember like pledging to myself, next time a terrible thing like this happens, I want to make sure that I'm on the side of the people who weren't just silent. So that was sort of the mindset that I had. And...
So that's why you started that first...
Yeah, that was the
first protest. And then people came up to you.
So that was the first protest. And I didn't have a plan or anything. I just was kind of thinking... the thing that just kept on coming to my mind was like, what are my grandkids going to think about me, and what will future generations think if I knew what was happening but I chose silence? And I didn't understand why a lot of other progressives weren't talking about it, and I didn't know why there were protests at UQ all the time about this. So I just wanted to do like one protest. Really, I tried to make it disruptive. Like we chose like market day, busiest day of the year on the campus, and we like blocked off a really busy walkway with a sit-in of like 15 people.
I love this. I love this virality.
So I wasn't really thinking anything. I I'd never done a media interview in my entire life. I didn't know a single journalist. I had like 6 followers on Twitter. Like, I had no idea. I mean, I didn't really have any plan or anything. I just thought, oh, it'd be awesome if like this gets a lot of traction. Like,
let's make some noise.
Yeah, make some noise. If it gets shared a lot in like UQ stalker space, that would be awesome.
And we going for the Leonardo DiCaprio, I'm not fucking leaving sort of
Yeah,
mentality.
yeah. I mean, that's what eventually happened when UQ, when UQ tried to expel me.
Yeah, because it blew up, didn't it?
Exactly, yeah. So, like, I don't know. It's so weird because it's like, I don't know. Some people have been like, Drew, you're sulking about it because like 2 years on, you're still talking about it. But it's like, the problem is nothing ever came of it. Like, none of the guys who went after me or were ever punished.
Break that moment down, because you did the protest, and then people came up to you.
Yeah, yeah.
So explain what happened there.
So like the night before, there were like Chinese nationalist guys posting an event on Facebook saying like, if you go tomorrow, like we'll kill you, like we'll kill your mum and stuff like that. And like, my personality is, I hate, like, I never want to be fucking bullied, you know? These Chinese nationalist guys were going like, we're going to kill you, we're going to kill your mum if you have the protest. So I was like, fuck off, cunts. And I Googled like, am I allowed to swear on the podcast?
Fucking
yeah. We're
go.
fucking Australian, you know?
Exactly.
It's what we
Yeah. So I just Googled like, what is the worst insult in Mandarin? And I didn't fucking like know, I didn't really know what I was doing. I just like Googled like, what's a big insult in Mandarin? And then like, one came up that was like, fuck your ancestors to the 18th generation. So I just copied the Mandarin characters and I just pasted it in the comments. Like, I was like, if you guys are saying you're going to kill me if I'm going to hold a peaceful protest, if you're going to say like, we're going to kill your mum for holding a protest in Brisbane, Australia, at my own university, fuck off. Like, I'll give as good as I get.
Give it back to him.
But I didn't realize it would blow up though. Cause
I feel like
I thought it was just sort of like online, like, I just thought it was
Just
online.
trolling.
Yeah, exactly.
But you
Warriors.
seem to know what's going to go viral. Like the way you've planned the protest.
Stumble.
But I
Move
didn't
into
think, I never thought it would be as viral as it did though. I just thought like, again, as I said before, like my sort of criterion for success at the time was like, if it gets like viral in the UQ student group, that's
Then
awesome.
Make some.
But the crazy thing was it got into like the Washington Post and like American news and like I was just so unprepared for that. But it wasn't a really well organized protest. Like, I was late because I slept in, and like I bought like posters on the way. I just went past the newsagent, bought like 2 cardboard posters, and then like I ran to the library and just printed out shit and like copied with a big text I found. It was really poorly organized. And when I started, to tell the truth, I was so anxious. So it's crazy. We had 15 people, and you know, these were just like, and all my friends that came were like not protesters. Like, they were just like my mates in the shit posting groups. So like, I was like going like, come on guys, come on, like sit down with me in the fucking walkway, and no one was coming.
They're like,
you first. So I had to like, you know, get up and like just start chanting into a megaphone as people were walking past. It's like weird and like, I remember it was so like, I was so anxious, so uncomfortable doing that. Like, and I just hated having. I was like, at that point I was like, wish I didn't do this. And then I don't know, like we just were there for 30 minutes, and it started to sort of pick up a bit. Like we had like people did sit down, people did chants and stuff. After about like 20 minutes, sort of got into like the vibe of it sort of thing. And like, I was no longer like, panicking sort of thing. Cause I realized like people actually were sort of like sitting down with me. Cause the thing I was so worried about was I was just going to be on my own. But people actually joined me. So, you know, we had 15 people. It was quiet. And it was towards the end of the protest. And I was kind of secretly thinking like, I'm happy it's about to end so I don't have to like be out here.
Yeah, fuck, let's go home.
And we were just sort of like chanting into the megaphone, and I was just like, saying, I didn't have any chants like practiced or anything. I just was saying shit that came to my head. So I started one like, hey ho ho, Xi Jinping's got to go, and we did that a bit. and then we were also doing one like, hey ho ho, Peter Hoy's got to go, whatever, the vice chancellor of the university. And yeah, again, it was not organized or anything. And then like, there was just like it was like 5 minutes left. I was about to do like the second last chant or whatever. And I just like look up, and there's like this big bloke who's like just 35 years old. Like, how do you do, fellow students? Like, he's got a big fucking jacket, sunglasses. He's just like 35 years old. And he's like a fucking operative.
It's the Undertaker.
And I'm just like sitting there, and he like reaches down, grabs my megaphone out of my hands, and like smashes it to the ground. And like again, that sort of like mindset where I'm like, I don't want to like be
let them take power.
Yeah, it's like I had never been in a fight before in my entire life. So I don't know how to fight at all. Like, I'd never thrown a punch in anger. But I also knew there were like so many people like watching. So I was like, fuck, I have to stand up and actually like defend myself or whatever. So I got up, tried to push them. And then he clipped me in the like mouth, and I fell to the ground, and I was just still thinking in my head like, I gotta do something. Like I can't.
Gotta keep push.
So I got up again and I tried, and then like
This is some Rocky type shit. Let's go.
Yeah, like they just got me, and I like punched to the head, thrown to the ground. Yeah, and because there were like two of them at that point, right? Like one came from another side, and he was in a big white jacket with sunglasses as well, and he had a fucking earpiece in and stuff.
It's a bloody mafia, mate.
Like these guys were not students, right? Like
they'd been sent in.
That to this day I believe that, right? Because the UQ was never able to confirm that they were students. They did a big investigation.
Did UQ want to?
No, never. See, this is the thing. Like, so we'll talk about the expulsion in a second, but like after the protest, UQ like it eventually got to the point where UQ was trying to expel me, and they got like 3 law firms in, 2 PR firms in to like sort of smear me and like go to the media and sort of go, don't do stories about Drew Pavlou, who's a racist, blah blah, like backgrounding and stuff. And they spent like hundreds of thousands of dollars. They admitted to the parliament that they spent like at least 200, 300,000.
Is the number, yeah.
And like that was just what they spent on external fees, right? Like so,
Wow.
they also had like UQ has its own internal lawyer unit, right? And so we did a freedom of information request. They had 15,000 pages worth of like just records on me by May last year. So this wasn't even at the height of expulsion. The expulsion happened. It finally happened in about August. May last year, they had 15,000.
But that just goes to show that...
And they never did... That's the thing, though. They never did this for the guys who attacked me that day.
Fuck.
Like,
Why wouldn't they?
Because the
Because
ties with Chinese
Yeah, they don't want to destroy the ties with China because...
So why is it in their interest?
So, UQ... So, 9,000 students among the 45, 50,000 that study at UQ are from the Chinese mainland. That's about...
A quarter, give or take.
About $200 to $300 million every year. It's at least 20% of the university's income every year.
Nice.
So if we're talking about, if it's like a $250 million, $300 million thing, and we're talking about that over 10 years or more, that's $1 billion relationship. They didn't want to destroy $1 billion relationship.
And even
because what happened was after I got attacked, the Chinese consul general in Brisbane actually put out a statement endorsing the violence, going like, we congratulate the Chinese students on their self-motivated patriotism against the separatists. And separatism is a death penalty crime in China. And at this point, I'm just like, holy fuck, man! Like,
because if they accept the fact that you're trying to protest against them and all that sort of stuff, and they're for that, and they don't go to the extension of expulsion,
man,
then they could
right now,
they could jeopardize their ties.
So they also appointed the consul general in Brisbane as an honorary professor at UQ. So they gave like the leading Chinese government representative in Queensland an honorary professor role at UQ and gave him an honorary doctorate. So he's like Dr. Zhu Zhe now. This guy was just like a police officer in China.
Please the government.
This guy was a police officer in China.
So military man?
Yeah, like basically like state security type.
Wow.
No intellectual background at all. Like not like he's like a scholar or anything. They gave him an honorary doctorate for his services to like Chinese language or something. So like now this guy Zhu Zhe, in all of his like, if you go around, all his like it comes up as he presents himself now, it's Dr. Zhu Zhe. The doctorate is given to him by UQ. It's just a state security guy, like a thug, man. Basically. Like, I'm not sure military, but he was state security.
Glorified thug.
Police state security apparatus in a fucking totalitarian dictatorship. And they're giving this guy an honorary doctorate. Probably one of the most, like, shameful experiences in UQ's history. But this is the most funny part, right? To this day, as we're speaking right now, what's the date today?
It's the 22nd of August.
2021. Like 2 years, it's been more than 2 years now since that day I got like punched on campus. And the consul general endorsed the violence. He's still a professor at UQ. He's still like an honorary professor. So I was the only one who ever got like kicked out.
To keep the ties.
So that goes to show the $1 billion relationship.
Did they ever make him apologise for condoning it?
No,
or
they
not condoning it,
never
like,
apologized. I tried to, my lawyers tried to take him to court for a peace and good behaviour order, which is like a Queensland semi-equivalent of like a restraining order. Basically, we were seeking for the court to compel him to retract that statement, basically. Because when he called me a separatist, my family, like, there were just hundreds of abusive messages from Chinese people online. So many of them were death threats, and they were like rape threats against my mum, rape threats against my family.
How did your family take all that?
They were so bad. They were so mad at me, like, because they're like, you have to understand.
Drew, you should have joined the fruit shop, man.
Yeah, no, that's literally what my dad was like. My dad, because my dad always sort of like, he was always like, don't do fucking politics, because Because I guess you gotta understand the mindset, right? Like it's an immigrant family, and most immigrant families, they just want to keep their head down, not cause trouble, just
keep the peace.
Yeah, and like you create your own business and you just work hard and keep your head down. And like suddenly, I just was causing fucking international incidents. And then there's like a video I took on the night before the first protest, and it was like my dad screaming at me, going like, "Don't fucking protest tonight!" and like, and he
Sorry,
just
Dad.
like, yeah, it's kind of, we laugh about it now, like, because like the video, he's like screaming like, "Just keep a fucking low profile." And then like the next time I talked to him was like 12 o'clock the next day, when they were like fucking like there were media, like Channel 7 trucks and stuff at UQ, and he just saw me on the news, and he was ringing me up. I was like, "What the fuck?" I'm like,
Fucking
like,
hell.
we've got a really sort of super woke relationship, right? Like, so yeah.
Is security required though at that point?
I mean, security came in, but they weren't really protecting us, right?
Oh, good. That's what you
How
want.
good's that?
Because like the security was like going against us. So like early that day, the security was like mostly trying to just. So when we first started the protest, like I guess UQ security just panicked and like ran over or whatever, and they were like trying to push us out of it.
$18 an hour. Fuck me.
And
That's not
no,
what
it
you
wasn't
want.
even, no, but it was actually like the heads of the UQ security, and they're like trying to push us out of the walkway, and we refused. Like, so like that day, they were like more interested in trying to like stop us from protesting than trying to like actually protect people from the Chinese nationals. Because what ended up happening was, like when I got up and I'd been attacked, and I looked around then, and I was like, oh shit, there's like 200, 300 guys around us that surrounded us on all sides, and they had like a boom speaker playing the Chinese national anthem. They started playing it the second that they attacked me, so it was like coordinated, right? Like one of them had an earpiece in. They came from different directions. They started playing the Chinese national anthem literally to the second they attacked me. If you watch the footage, so it was all coordinated. And
Who do you think coordinated the?
I think it
situation?
had to be the Chinese consulate, because in the past, like
Which is Zuji.
Zhu, yeah, because
who's the doctor that's not the fucking
the
doctor.
doctor, right? Because like there was a really famous case, right, in the lead up to the Beijing Olympics in 2008. There was the torch rally through Canberra, and a lot of like the Tibetan community in Australia, they mobilized to protest it, and so the Chinese consulate, like, and this is on the record, like the embassy and the consulates, like they were busing in Chinese students and stuff, and then that day those Chinese students assaulted the Tibetans. So I think, given like they've already done that in Australia, like they organized attacks on, say, like Tibetans and stuff like that, I think it's pretty reasonable to say like that fits that pattern. And then as well, you've got the fact that like the next day, the Consul General was putting out a statement basically endorsing it, going like, "Good on you guys, like
Keep it up, you're doing a good job."
Yeah, basically.
Endorsing a crime that's...
Yeah, exactly. And we wanted to basically like, we tried to take him to court, and they dismissed it because of diplomatic immunity, and UQ wouldn't do anything. So it took them like a year and a half. Like,
Your lawyer released a statement saying that that is what was meant to be the case, and then you were calling on Scott Morris. Was it Scott Morris?
yeah, so when the courts dismissed the case, the court said this is ultimately a decision of the Australian government, not the Australian courts.
Fucking wiping the hands clean.
So then we then called upon Scott Morrison and the Liberal government. This Chinese diplomat has literally endorsed violent assaults on Australian citizens. That's a crime. Why has he not been like expelled from the country? Because I'm pretty sure. So there was a point where the American ambassador to Australia actually commented on the case, like on Sunrise or something like that, and he was like, if that had happened in Australia, he said something along the lines of like, if that had happened in America, the diplomat would have been expelled.
Well,
Because-
I mean, it did happen in America. Donald Trump was inciting a riot, and it sounds very similar to the tweet that
He was.
Zuji put out. And Trump has been kicked off Twitter. He's been debaned
he was
from
the
every
president
platform
of
in
them.
the
I
world.
just think the Chinese
So-
are too powerful. They can't imagine
That's
trying.
actually an interesting point. Like,
It's happened. That's what I'm saying.
They kicked off a president.
Yeah.
to be fair, like that whole Capitol Hill stuff, like people did die. Like the most that happened at that rally, like I got like knocked in the head and whatnot. And, like I got coward punched as well, like because we were surrounded, and then like one of them came up behind me. He was wearing a skeleton teeth mask, punched me in the back of my head while my back was turned.
But what do you
different levels
what do you reckon would happen though if UQ came out and said, look, we agree with the protests and we think that Chinese, there is a problem. What do you reckon would?
It wasn't even that we wanted them to do that. We just wanted them to say,
I'm sorry.
we wanted UQ, like UQ ended up putting out like a sort of like really sort of weak both sides statement saying like, we just condemn violence on campus. But then like, if you look at all the footage, all the violence was carried out by Chinese nationalists.
But
And then they had actually appointed a guy who then endorsed the violence. So we were asking UQ, like, just basic standards, right? Like, you say you've got a code of conduct. Why are you not applying the code of conduct in this case? And then they ultimately applied it to me, right?
But if they admitted to that the Chinese are the ones that are actually starting all the rioting and all the physical violence and all that sort of stuff, what do you think? What sort of reaping?
I don't know. Like,
yeah,
you have to remember this was pre-COVID, right? So at that time,
what would the repercussions be?
Like, so this is the thing, right? Like, they were really worried that the number of Chinese students coming to UQ and Australia would like decrease, and then therefore they would lose revenue.
Yeah.
And this was prior to COVID when that happened anyway. So they were like trying to like desperately do anything in their view to like
just a money making business.
Yeah, in their view, they were just trying to do They were just desperately trying to do anything to avoid ruining that market. But then it ended up getting ruined anyway by COVID. So UQ, this is the crazy thing. Like, it blew up at UQ, right? Just because I was like crazy and I couldn't stop because I just kept spiraling. It just kept spiraling out of control and I couldn't shut up. But like, UQ probably actually isn't the closest. There's like probably University of Sydney and University of Melbourne.
Because you were saying,
particularly Uni of Sydney, like their revenue is like $500 million each year, and it's like 30% up of the. So they're even closely, and the Vice Chancellor of the University of Sydney, for example, he like when the Dalai Lama was visiting Australia last, he was invited by lecturers to speak at the University of Sydney, and the Vice Chancellor basically like said no, it's not happening, and he like stopped that. He stopped the Dalai Lama speaking on campus because the Dalai Lama is persecuted by the Chinese government.
What?
So the thing is, like, it could have happened at the University of Sydney. It could have happened really at so many different universities in Australia. But I don't know, there wasn't really big student resistance to any of this because I just think, I don't know, that was part of why I wanted to do it in the first place because I was looking around, I was like, why do no students speak about this?
Because wasn't there were other times where there were other situations at different universities where they just swept it under the rug in regards to the ties with the Chinese government? Because I remember you were saying at a specific university that it wasn't until you went to, did you go to Parliament House and you were bringing these other cases forward?
Oh, yeah. So, like, once this whole thing blew up, there were further cases, like, for example, the University of New South Wales. They had a lecturer who was, like, working for Australian Human Rights Watch, and she'd put up an article about, like, Hong Kong and democracy on the university website. And the Chinese students then organized, like, a group of nationalist Chinese students on the campus organized, like, group chats, and there was like 300 of them or something like that. And they were trying to get the university to fire her because she spoke up for Hong Kong democracy. And the big scandal was that the university actually deleted it from their website. And then when they deleted it from the website, then everyone in Australia was criticizing them. So then they put out a statement saying, sorry, it should never have happened. But then they also put out a Chinese statement where they were like, we don't have any links to that academic, like, so they were speaking to two different audiences. And it was just all that sort of stuff that was leading together that led to that inquiry, but still the Confucius Institutes are there. Still, like Peter Hoy, he just left UQ, went to University of Adelaide, has $1 million salary there. No one ever got punished. None of the guys who attacked me were ever punished. Consul General Zhuge, still a UQ professor. Peter Varghese, the Chancellor of the university. And it came out that his brother, Jim Varghese, is like a senior member of this company, like the Springfield like the company that oversees the Springfield land.
Yeah,
like,
the land development, the big
Yeah.
houses subdivision.
And it came out that Peter Varghese's brother, Jim Varghese, he's a senior member of that land development company. And the land development company just signed like $1 billion deal with this huge Chinese property development company to develop like thousands of units.
Unbelievable, man.
And that company, I looked up the executives, and you can't really be like a leader of a huge company in China without being like a party member, like a member of the Chinese Communist Party. These guys who were running this company were like senior, like they were on top advisory bodies to the Chinese government. They were senior. So there's this thing called like, it's like this nexus, right? Called like the United Front. And like, this is kind of like the ministry through which the Chinese government deals with its relations with like groups in civil society, right? So like, and overseas as well. So like, it's through this United Front that they deal with businessmen and like civil society groups and stuff like that, like kind of extend their tentacles. And these guys were on the top United Front bodies. So Peter Varghese, the Chancellor of UQ, who like presided over the whole thing against me, his brother is senior member of this company that's doing $1 billion deal with like
Doing a bit of behind the scenes Chinese involvement stuff.
Like, look, like $1 billion company, like a company that's on $1 billion deal with a company in China that's headed by top United Front executives. And Peter Varghese got a new 5-year contract after everything that happened to me. Peter Hoy got a new $1 million contract in the University of Adelaide. None of the guys who attacked me were ever held accountable. Like, the police would never even release their names, but they said one of them just flew back to China, so they'll never get them. And
just
like,
to shrug the situation.
It sounds like they weren't interested.
And nothing happened to the Consul General. He's still a professor at UQ.
So
that's why I'm still going, you know, like, because nothing happened. Like,
push for
justice. I kind of won in the sense that like their goal was to like kind of destroy my life and like grind me into dust because they wanted to like make an example out of me. I'm still going.
You've launched a career out of it.
Well, I haven't made any money at the moment.
But you've got a base. You've got a foundation.
Make a change.org, mate.
Look, the crazy thing was like, they were trying to silence me, and then it just made my voice like 5,000 times louder. Because like, so like the first protest, I had 6 followers on Twitter, and like, by the end of like 2019, I had like 6,000, and then UQ tried to like expel me 3 or 4 months after that, and I went from 6,000 to 25,000. And like my Facebook
your voice is being
and
heard.
my Facebook went from like 1,000 to 20,000 there too. So basically, like they just gave me a huge sort of platform by trying to silence me. So which is good, and that's why I'm like trying to keep going.
So what's happening now? You're writing a book?
Yeah, I'm trying to write this book about my experience, and also trying to explain to people like, I don't know, because sadly a lot of people like just. I've learned this weird thing. It's like parasocial relationships, right? Like, so like people like develop relationships through like online and stuff like that, where they think that they know you sort of thing.
You don't.
So like dealing with that for the first time in my life was like really weird. And like just the fact that like I knew there were all these people out there like who like hated my guts so much. Like, so like, for example, like a lot of people like they're just like reflex reaction to like me doing the protest and stuff was, oh, he's just an attention seeker, young guy. He's not a human rights activist.
They just don't know what the behind the scenes sort of stuff.
Well, I wish through the book I would like to explain the reality of how it actually happened, because it was easy for them to sort of like just see me in the media and like, you know, like I tried to put on a brave face in the media because I was under so much stress and I was getting attacked from all quarters, and like as soon as the university started hiring these PR crisis management firms, there were all these anonymous posts going around on like Reddit and stuff saying like, I saw Drew Pavlou bash a black person on campus. I saw Drew Pavlou like rape a woman on campus and just walk away. Like just really psycho stuff. Like all these like psychotic rumors about me, like, and just like allegations and stuff by just anonymous robot accounts. So like dealing with that is like just the stress it puts on you is just so immense. And then like on top of that, obviously there was the university going after me. Chinese state media started putting out releases saying like it would be good if Drew got expelled. Like they're kind of endorsing it.
Yeah. And going on.
Were you fearing for your life?
They were like, it was probably the worst part was just like the immediate few days after the first protest. I think past a certain point, like I still get the death threats and stuff, but I think past a certain point, like by having more of a profile and stuff, it protects you in a way, because I don't know, like for example, like ever since I started getting a following, I've never been like punched or like attacked by like any of those Chinese nationalistic guys again, because I guess it just like
because they know you could reach out to the media or
I think
a massive statement.
So in a way, it's sort of protecting, but then it's also really unsettling still, because like there was also a point where people were like posting my parents' like financial and legal records from like 10 years ago online, and these were just like bot accounts. I still had the death threats. There were creepy letters sent to the house. What else? Like, and then they were like lefty sort of professors who like were like writing essays about like how racist and like evil I was and stuff like that. So it was like I was just getting attacked from all sides, right? And so I was so agitated all the time, and I mean, like I just wasn't in a headspace. Yeah. I mean, what happens when you're like fucking 20 years old?
How do you deal with that?
No, it was such a
you don't know.
There's not many people who go through it.
Exactly, because it was like kind of like there was like one other Australian guy who's like received. There's like probably like one other Australian guy who's like received like huge abuse from Chinese nationalists online and stuff like that. Probably like Mac Horden, the swimmer, because when he came out against one of the athletes that was a drug
when he didn't stand on the podium.
Like there were threats and people were throwing stuff over the fence at his parents' house and really terrible threats. I actually became friends with him.
Really?
He followed me back on Instagram. We talked a little bit. He's not really political, but like I guess just the shared experience. So like he had that whole abuse. Yeah. And it's like, but yeah, I wasn't prepared at all. If it was true that I was just like a random attention seeker, like this is what I've always said, right? Like you could just go through a nudie run at the Gabba. You could just go do a nudie run at like the Gabba or like Suncorp or something. If you're just like an attention seeker, full stop. Like go do a nudie run, right? Like you're not gonna get death threats to your family.
There's no purpose behind it. Exactly.
I mean, yeah, exactly that. But like what I mean is like there are easier ways to get attention, right? Like that don't involve like threats to your family and all that abuse and like.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like
it's probably not a bad thing to bring it up.
Like could just be like TikTok comedian or like there's just other ways, right? Like there was a point where UQ they were threatening, like if I released documents that were relevant to my case, they were like, "We'll pursue you for contempt of court," and that carries like a 3-year prison sentence. So like they had their like top lawyers like threatening me with like jail time, and like they're also threatening to like sue me for like indemnity costs, which are basically attempts to bankrupt me. And it's like. There are easier ways to get attention than like going through that, you know.
But you knew how to capture it though. Like the cigar, like that's a perfect moment of
because
capturing that attention.
You knew you would get somewhat of a reaction out of by doing that.
Oh look, I definitely did sort of. I did. See, like one of the things was like UQ thought that like at every step along the road, like UQ would escalate things, and I think they thought that I'd back down, like as though I was like this sort of like rational person that would like be scared.
Step right back up.
But like my response was always no, we're escalating things higher because it's like. I didn't have anything to lose. I was like, I don't have any money to my name. If they want to bankrupt me, that's fine. If they want to send me to prison for like 6 months, like, okay, I'll do that. Like,
you were ready to go to prison?
At that point, yes. And I'd probably still, if I had to, like, I probably would for something like free speech. Because from my perspective, I was just basically someone who was trying to raise attention about the fact that the university had a really close financial relationship with the government committing genocide. Like 1 million Uyghurs are in concentration camps. It became for me this fundamental like thing about standing up for my fundamental beliefs, and it was about trying to raise awareness about human rights and stuff. Obviously, I had taken provocative angles to do that, and people didn't like the fact. Like some people were like, "Oh, he's too provocative. He could have just written an essay about his views." Like, no one fucking cares, man. But the thing is, like, if like that was what UQ was trying to say. They were like. It's not about his views. It's the way he's going about it. It's like
with fucking when you had the Stormzy song playing in the background when you were running.
Yeah, like rapping Skepta on campus and stuff. The thing is, like their sort of like perspective was like Drew Pavlou should have just he should have aired his views in a formal mature manner and like write an essay about it. And what?
No one listened.
And no one would fucking
nothing
care.
Will come
and
about
nothing
it.
would ever happen. Like thanks to. Like, I did a lot of stupid shit and I made a lot of dumb mistakes. And I also, like, fucked up my career prospects in some ways. But it's like, if I'd just done, like, the way that if I just gone about it the way that I was supposed to go about it, nothing would have happened. No one would have fucking cared. We wouldn't have the parliamentary inquiry, all that sort of thing. That was my perspective.
When they went to the extent of expulsion for yourself... And I remember and I recall you posting that video, I think it was Channel 9 News, where a good friend of yours legally changed his name.
Yeah,
Do you want to explain that situation?
Yeah, so like my friend Taylor he's like a PhD student at UQ and he just came along to a couple of protests and like we became mates or whatever. And he had like this joke one time, like he was like, oh, like, what if I changed my name to Drew Pavlou, like, and I ran for you? And I was like, we laughed a lot at the time. And then I was like, And,
fuck, that's an idea.
And then he literally legally changed his name. And then he ran on the ticket, like the Drew Pavlou ticket, as the presidential candidate, Drew Pavlou. So like, if you were going to vote, it just said Drew Pavlou at the top of the ticket.
Wow.
And I basically like endorsed it, and like everyone understood that like if he won, once my suspension was over, I'd come back. But like, it was ultimately like, it was funny. It was funny and like a fun time or whatever. But like, just getting involved again in like the really toxic mess of student politics, which is like even like more toxic and psycho than like the CCP. So it started out like they were trying to permanently ban me from campus.
Yeah.
And they had the UQ lawyers arguing for that outcome. And I was really lucky, like one of Australia's best lawyers represented me for free. And this is a guy who would ordinarily, like, I'd have to be paying like $10,000 a day, and I couldn't afford that. I've got like $50 in my bank. But he was like, I'll help you for free. And that was lifesaver. That was the thing that really changed things, because if I didn't have that, I would have just been crushed. And it was like the second that I got him on board, like Tony Morris QC, and he's like a silk, like one of the best barristers. Like the second he came on board, they shat themselves. But it went from permanent expulsion.
Did you reach out to Tony Morris? How did that relationship build?
So someone just on my Twitter was like, "You need legal representation." I was like, "Yeah, I know I do."
I'm fucked.
No shit.
I'm fucked.
I was like, "I'm fucked, but I don't have any money." And then they're like, "Oh, I know a guy who's like, I know a good barrister in Brisbane who's done good free speech cases in the past." And I was like, "Who?" Like,
Just an average Joe.
yeah, I was like, okay, like I'd be keen to talk to him. And so they like got me in touch with like his office manager and stuff like that. And I went over and I talked with him. We were talking for 30 minutes and we got along, and like he agreed like my entire case was like it was so unfair what I was going through and stuff. And then he was like, "Right, we'll do it." And I was like, "Oh, awesome." And then I was like, "Oh, but by the way, Tony, like when you say you're doing it, like I can't pay you, like I can't pay you $10,000 a day." And he goes, "Oh, no, it's pro bono work." Like he was like I do corporate work, like half my practice is corporate work. I take money from the rich, and then that enables me to do like Robin Hood cases for people who can't. And I was like, that's fucking awesome. So he went out and tried to help me for free, and he got it down from permanent expulsion to 2 years suspension. And like the 2 years suspension though, everyone around Australia was like just pissed. And like literally like the education minister like rung up like Peter Varghese that night, the chancellor of UQ, and was like, "This is fucking unacceptable." Like there's actually like news articles about it and stuff. So the government was like, to UQ, it's not acceptable. So then we appealed it again before UQ's own kangaroo courts, like still their own judge, jury, executioner. And still at the appeal, they were trying to actually argue that like, uphold it for at least 2 years. And Tony got it down to 6 months. I didn't realize at the time, but like I had been actually very affected by what had happened. Like I was trying to convince myself like that the tough guy persona was real and I wasn't like messed up by it all. But like, because I was just like sort of like in a constant kind of like battle, like 4, 6, 7 months. And like there was a point where like every single day I was in the media and I was getting attacked from all sides. Like I was just constantly agitated, and I didn't realize like how agitated I was. And also I developed a bit of hubris, like, because I was like, oh, if I can beat UQ, I can beat anyone or whatever. There were like young Labor people who like, they went out to Labor MPs that I'd reached out to try and get them to help. And they like these young Labor people who like were in some cases like starvers for them and stuff were like, "Oh, don't help Drew Pavlou. Like the real reason he's getting expelled from UQ, like because UQ had prepared a 200-page dossier on me that included all the charges." And they were going to the Labor MPs and senators going like, "Don't help Drew Pavlou because the 200 pages contain like rape and like crimes and stuff like that." And like,
but where are they getting this evidence from?
They just invented it, because keep in mind like the ABC, the New York Times, the Washington Post, like American, European news, Australian news, all and
Bit
like
of it, tension.
And members of Australian Parliament, like I sent the document to them and they read it through, and they were all like basically like, it's basically like they've just invented stuff to go after you, because like some of the charges were so ridiculous. It was like, there's one that's kind of become a bit of a meme, like I'd used a pen in a campus art shop without paying for the pen. Like I took a note with it.
What?
I took a note with it and I put it back on the shelf. And so UQ's whole reason was like, UQ's whole justification was like, it's got nothing to do with China. Drew's like, we're going after him for these really serious allegations. And like, they want the public to believe like they spent hundreds of thousands of dollars because I used like a pen in a campus art shop. Like no one believes it. So like, I was like, no, we've got to fucking like still get these guys. And we've got to take on, that like entrenched sort of like network at UQ and also the university. And obviously like I had a big head too, but like just the actual environment itself is so toxic. Like I lost a friend, Wilson, to suicide, and it was like partly due to like how toxic student politics was at UQ.
Sorry, man.
Like University of Queensland student politics has like literally killed people. So like this is how toxic it was, and going back into it, it like destroyed my mental health, and so I guess that was like a big wake up call. It's like, and in the end, like I lost by like 100 votes or something like that, but we probably should have won. But like it was a big wake up call, because it was like, it was a dent to my sort of hubris, and it was also was like a time where I had to actually reflect upon where my mental state was at after like a year of just basically constant conflict.
Yeah.
And like I'd sort of started to lose my values as well, because the humanitarian values were the things that had initially drawn me to the whole thing. But towards the end, it was just, I was so all consumed by these fights with these other people in politics, because like they were trying to destroy my life. So like I was just super agitated and always on edge, and they always knew how to roll me up.
Once everything simmered down and you didn't have any media attention, how did that make
that's
you feel? What was that
basically-
sensation like?
So that's basically like what I've been going through the past year. Like things have been a lot more calmer, and I've had more space to actually like properly reflect upon things and stuff like that. And that's why I'm writing the book, where the book is about like the book is partly about that, how like there was hubris there, and there was like, and I lost my way at times, and I was also like really emotionally agitated, and I was in a bad place because, I mean, ultimately what ended up happening, like within 6 months, like I lost that mate Wilson. I got expelled from the university, had death threats against the family. Like I lost all my friendships. I lost like partner, like all this stuff. Like basically just blew up my personal life. Like, and I also wasn't. It destroyed my relationship with my parents for like 9 months as well. Because like, you know, before we were joking about how my dad reacted and stuff, like legitimately for like almost a year after that first protest, like the relationship was like really poisoned by it, because they were constantly trying to stop me from doing it, and they really hated it. So like I basically like I almost lost my family. I almost lost all my friends at the time. A lot, because basically, yeah, my friendship group when the first protest started, like I'm no longer friends with most of those people, because a lot of them were like, it was such a tense and scary period, and people like left and stuff like that. Like lost so many friends, almost lost my family. There was always financial stress because I didn't really make any money out of this. The points where I was like, where am I going to live? Because it was like my parents were like really wanting
kicking you out.
Yeah, were trying to kick me out. I had no money.
Did not have anything to do with it.
And I only had like $50 in my bank account, and I couldn't get Centrelink either, because it's like, you know, like how Centrelink is. It's just like really, it's just designed so that people can't actually
make
use
it so difficult.
So it's like, and then also my university, I was losing my studies, which was my passion for such a long time and stuff. Like, it took a big toll on me, and I hope now like I'm in a much better place, in that I think I am more like grounded and stuff, and like I return back to my Christian faith and stuff, because I'm baptized Greek Orthodox, and returning back to the faith helped really ground me and keep me more humble, because it's like I try and remember that like when I am in the media and like there like things are going well, I have to be like, well, it's not because I'm like this perfect world genius or anything. It's like everything that happens is happening because, you know, God, like so I'm just trying to remember that there's something above me, and like trying to like ground myself and stuff like that. And that has improved my life significantly.
And getting through all this, you know, this rough patch to where you are now, the 2021 Drew Pavlou, what does the future lie for you? Where does the future lie for you?
I mean,
Senate. Could be Senate.
Yeah, I mean...
yeah, that's what I was saying. Because you're saying you're running for Queensland Senate?
Yeah, so I basically agonised over this decision for like 4 or 5 months. Like, people were like, where are you going to go next and stuff? And there was the option of like law. So I'm still working for Tony Morris, like 1 day a week at the moment. He was so nice, because he like actually... he knew that I was like... didn't have... I mean, he knew I was in a tough time and everything. So he offered like to have me come into the office 1 or 2 days a week and help him out with like just office admin stuff and everything. And that's been really helpful lifeline. And he wanted me to eventually like take over as his lead sort of office manager. And like, he wanted to like sort of like mentor me to become a barrister. And like, there were people that said to me like, oh, you'd be crazy if you turned down that opportunity, because QCs make $10,000 a day and you can make like $1 million a year and stuff. But like, I couldn't, it just doesn't...
Legacy, impact.
Didn't sit right?
It didn't light a fire in me, man, like my activism does. Because like, there was literally like a period where I was like trying to convince myself, oh yeah, I put the politics aside and like, I just put my head down, I study law, I become a barrister, like think about things in the long term more. It's like, and that way you'll be financially secure and stuff, but it wasn't like something that like lit a fire in me. And so like, and there were people as well who were like, yeah, like that path would be so much better, because like, just be a barrister, make your money, and then one day, you know, you can join a major party, and oh, who knows how far you can advance.
But wouldn't that be more or less following societal values?
Well, it's just like, it's just not really me as such, I think, because I'm not really someone, like part of the reason I got into it all in the first place was because like, I was looking around and no one else was protesting, and no one else was like putting their neck on the line. And like, part of the reason why like all those young Labour and young Liberal kids, like they weren't protesting about the Chinese government or the human rights abuses, because like they were just worried about their careers. And like I remember still like there was one guy, and he was like high up in Young Liberals or whatever, and he was like, oh, I really respect what you're doing, bro. And I was like, why don't you come to the protest? And he was like, oh, like the party would be upset with me. So it's like, that's just the opposite of who I am, you know. I tried to put myself in the mindset where I'm like, Well, you don't. Not even that I would have to be like a slave to like Young Labour or anything, but like just the mindset of like just put politics aside and just build wealth and like, but it just didn't light a fire in me because it's like I know all these terrible things are happening now and I really want to fight now, and it's like I don't have the mindset where I'm like, oh, in 30 years I'll go into politics and that'll be a good career, because I'm not really thinking
straight away.
I'm not really even thinking about it in terms of career. I'm like, I'm going to run for the Senate. I'm going to try to get my ideas out there.
Yeah.
If I win, like, fucking awesome. Like, I'd be able to just, like, get my ideas out to, like, so many more people, and I'd have a platform, and, like, I could try and, like, fight back against the government, whether it's Labour or the Liberals. I could try to stop them from passing terrible stuff through Parliament. So that'd be awesome. But if I lose, like, I would just keep doing what I'm doing in other ways. Because I'm thinking about this in terms of movement building, you know? Like I want to write the book. I want to do more podcasts. I want to do videos. I want to, like, just reach more people and reach young people, inspire more young people to want to stick their necks out and try actually improve things. Like, I just need people to help me try and get on the ballot paper. So it's a free membership sign up. If you go to drewpavlou.com/join, like, you just put in your details. You just have to be an Australian voter. And you don't really have to do anything. The only thing you might have to do is, like, if the Australian Electoral Commission rings you up and they just say, like, are you actually a member of the Drew Party? You just have to say, yeah, I am. You just have to confirm membership. But that would really be all you have to kind of do. It just helps me get above the line on the ballot paper. Once I'm actually on the ballot paper, once it's confirmed that I can actually be, like, so once it's confirmed that people can actually vote for me, then just when you're in the election booth, you just go to the Senate ballot paper and you just put 1 next to the Drew name. And then you can vote. Then you can put 2, 3, however which way you want. People worry, oh, what if I waste my vote voting for someone who doesn't have a chance? Well, luckily we've got preferential voting in this country. You can vote really however you want. Like, if you want to give me number 1, give, X party, random party, like number 2. I mean, you can do that.
So Drew Pavlou / what was the hypersite?
drewpavlou.com/join.
Yep.
And you just sign up, and it's a free membership sign up. And if we get to 1,500 members, then I can be on the Senate ballot paper.
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. And, like, I don't have an investment property. I don't have a financial portfolio. I don't have stocks to my name. I'm not bought up by lobbyists. I'm just a genuine person.
Dan Blazerian.
What about Dan Blazerian?
Mate, you're the Dan Blazerian of the Senate, mate.
Oh, I don't know if I can say that, mate. I think I might get cancelled, but I mean, I'm just one guy who had, like, a mission. I fought against the Chinese government so people can see that, like, I stand by my beliefs. And, like, I'm just one guy, young 22-year-old bloke, that wants to just support ordinary people who are doing it tough right now.
Well, you got my vote, Drew.
Yeah. Thank you, brother. Thank you, man. So
I was trying to see if I can try and reach over here. There we go.
Thank you, bro.
Drew, thank you for coming on the show.
No worries,
Thank
man.
you. So drewpavlou.com/join.
Yeah, and just
Drew Pavlou
let's
on every
try
other platform.
something new. This is basically like people power movement. It's something completely different. If someone wants something completely different, then vote Drew. We'll try to change things.
Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Drew. Thanks for coming on the show.